The melodic bass line in Ben Böhmer's Beyond Beliefs is built around the interval of a perfect fifth. A perfect fifth is 7 semitones. Guitarists will know this interval as a power chord, appropriately named because, as we hear in this song, it has a powerful, courageous feeling. As you can see with this motif that is based on the bass melody in Beyond Belief, the bass line starts on B flat, then jumps up by 7 semitones landing on F. The distance between these two notes is a perfect fifth. Then, between the next two notes, A flat moves down by 7 semitones landing on D flat. This distance is also a perfect fifth. The last notes also form a perfect fifth, although there is a note in between. Throughout the song, the pattern constantly changes, but keeps revolving around a perfect fifth. In the second phrase, there is a different starting note and a different ending, but the overall shape remains the same. In the third phrase, the overall shape stays the same, but we lose some of the perfect fifths until the end, where there are 3 stacked on top of one another. Small variations prevent a track from getting repetitive or boring without having to change the progression or the groove. If thinking about intervals is new to you, the perfect fifth is a great place to start. It's a useful interval for approaching melodic jumps, especially in the bass. The melodic bass sound in Ben Böhmer's Beyond Beliefs is fairly simple, but takes advantage of a few small modulations that bring it to life. We will use wavetable instead of analog to create this sound because it is a bit easier to apply modulations in wavetable. First, let's set the polyphony to monophonic so that the synth only produces one note at a time. Deactivate oscillator 2. For oscillator 1's wavetable, choose Basics and Basic Shapes. Now, change the position of the wavetable to 55%. Next, adjust the amplifier envelope. Change the loop mode to trigger, so that all segments are played once a note is received. Set attack to 2 milliseconds, decay to 589 milliseconds, sustain all the way down, and the release to 5 milliseconds. Let's set up the filter. There's 2 filters at our disposal here. We'll use filter 1 to control the low end. Set the mode to high pass 12 decibels, set the frequency to 225 Hz, and the resonance to 35%. The second filter will control the top end. Activate filter 2, set it to low pass 12 decibels, and the circuit to OSR. Set the frequency to 944 Hz. And the resonance to 40%. These 2 filters combined creates a bandpass. In the matrix, apply velocity modulation to both filters. This can be done by first clicking on the parameter and then entering the value in its row. Set the velocity modulation of both filters' frequency to 25. Set the velocity modulation of the resonance of filter 2 to 35. Now the filter cutoff corresponds with note velocity. Next, we'll give each note its own motion by using envelope 2 to control filter 2's cutoff. Set attack to 10 milliseconds, decay to 282 milliseconds, sustain to 0%, and release to 1.5 milliseconds. In the matrix, set envelope 2's modulation of filter 2's frequency to 5. Now there's quick subtle movement to the brightness of each note. Now we'll use LFO1 to accentuate the contour of the whole phrase. Set the sync mode to subdivisions, deactivate retrigger, set the shape of LFO1 to triangle, rate to 2 bars, amount to 70%, shape to 0%, and offset to 270%. Now set LFO's modulation of filter 2's frequency to 25. The filter is more open for the first notes of the phrase and then closes for the last notes, making them darker and quieter. Use drum bus to get a little closer to the melodic bass sound in Ben Böhmer's Beyond Beliefs. First, set the dry-wet mix to 5% so that the effect has only a subtle influence on the sound. Activate compression. Set drive to 20%. Set damp to 10K to tame the crisp high end. Set transients to 0.5 to give the attacks of the notes more definition. And set boom to 20% to give the bottom end a little more weight. The melodic bass requires echo and reverb to avoid sounding lifeless. Add echo. Set both the left and right delays to dotted eighth, the feedback to 70%, and the dry-wet to 20%. Set the high-pass filter to 111 Hz, and the low-pass filter to 3000 Hz. Raise the resonance of the low-pass filter to 0.12. In order to make it so that we only hear the echoes once the bass is done playing the phrase, enable ducking and reduce the threshold to -48 with the release of 20 milliseconds. Now when the bass melody is done playing, the echoes become audible. Add a hybrid reverb. We will be using only the convolution reverb, set to bigger spaces, and the impulse response to shimmering sky LR. Set the size to 165%. Set pre-delay to 5 milliseconds, and the dry-wet to 25%. This will give us a nice long stereo reverb tail, but won't overwhelm the bass sound. Lastly, switch over to the reverb's EQ. Since we're dealing with a bass sound, let's accentuate the higher parts of the reverb tail and reduce the lows. Cut the lows at 110 Hz with a slope of 24 decibels. Boost the first octave at 219 Hz by 3 decibels with a Q curve of 2.11. Boost the next octave at 497 Hz, twice as much by 6 decibels, with a slightly wider Q of 1.23. Lastly, boost the rest of the top end starting at 912 Hz by 4 decibels. In Beyond Beliefs, Ben Böhmer uses a type of reverse delay that builds as the song progresses. Use spectral time to get a similar effect. Spectral time freezes audio and allows you to crossfade between the freezes as well as repeat them with its own dedicated delay. Set to retrigger, change to sync mode, activate the large freeze button so it's blue. Set crossfade to 50%. Set delay mode to notes, and the delay time to 3/8. Set feedback to 85%. Stereo to 100%. And tilt to 229 milliseconds. Now set resolution to ultra. Automate the dry-wet parameter where you want to apply the effect.